Paramahansa Parivajakacharya, Asta Saraswati Sri Srimad His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai, ISKCON Founder Acharya Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai, Anantagudi Vaishnava Vrinda Ki Jai, Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Jai. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees, and all glories to Sri Sri Guru and Gauranga. Srila Prabhupada. Hare Krishna. Before I begin, I want to thank everyone here for coming. And I'm praying to all of you, or begging all of you, for your prayers, that I may say something useful and beneficial for all of us, including myself. It's a 2-page purport completely, and I spoke with Savas, and he thought, and I thought it would be a good idea to have just 1 page and have a little commentary on that 1 full page. And has much material to cover, and whoever will be speaking tomorrow should cover the second part of the purport. Okay? Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo. Somebody saying something? Thought I had a little competition for a moment. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Reading from the Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 1, Chapter 16, and it'll be text number 20. Padarnyunam shochasi maikapadam Atmanam va vishalar bhokshamanam Aho suradin rita yagya bagan Praja utasvin magavat yavarshati Padarnyunam shochasi maikapadam Atmanam va vishalaya bhokshamanam Aho suradin rita yagya bagan Praja utasvin magavat yavarshati Padarnyunam shochasi maikapadam Atmanam va vishalar bhokshamanam Aho suradin rita yagya bagan Praja utasvin magavat yavarshati. Please chant. Atmanam Vishalabhoshamanam. Ladies, please. Amala-bhakta Synonyms: Padai, by three legs; Nunam, diminished; Shochasi, if you are lamenting for that; Ma, my; Ekapadam, only one leg; Atmanam, own body; Va, or; Vishalai, by the unlawful meat-eaters; Bhokshamanam, to be exploited; Aho, in sacrifice; Suradin, the authorized demigods; Vitayagya, devoid of sacrificial; sorry; Bhaghan, share; Prajaha, the living beings; Uta, increasing; Svit, weather; Magavati, in famine and scarcity; Avarshati, sorry, because of rainlessness. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace, Srila Prabhupada. What I will be reading right now is actually spoken by Dharma, who's in the form of a bull. And he's talking to Mother Earth, who's in the form of a cow. So, this is a very rather lamenting scene in which Mother Earth is crying, and Father Bull, if you will, he's also very sad, sorry, because he once had 4 legs, and now he has only 1 leg. And I will explain that a little bit more in detail as we move along. I have lost my 3 legs and am now standing on one only. Are you lamenting for my state of existence? Or are you in great anxiety because henceforward the unlawful meat-eaters will exploit you? Or are you in a sorry plight because the demigods are now bereft of their share of sacrificial offerings because no sacrifices are being performed at present? Or are you grieving for living beings because of their sufferings due to famine and drought? Purport. With the progress of the age of Kali, 4 things particularly, namely the duration of life, mercy, the power of recollection, and moral or religious principles will gradually diminish. Since Dharma, or the principles of religion, would be lost in the proportion of 3 out of 4, the symbolic bull was standing on one leg. Dharma and the bull, or let us just say, the bull is symbolic of Dharma. And Dharma is in the form of a bull. So the bull was standing on one leg only. Now normally he has 4 legs, but here he's standing on just one. And that will be explained as we move along. When 3/4 of the population of the whole world become irreligious, the situation is converted into hell for the animals. In the age of Kali, godless civilizations will create so many so-called religious societies in which the personality of Godhead will be directly or indirectly defied. In other words, the commandments of God will be repudiated. You don't have to do that. If you want to have adultery, you can have adultery. If you want to steal, why not? As long as I can get away with it, it's a good thing. So this is the kind of mentality of people in godless civilization, which is being talked about here. And thus, faithless societies of men will make the world uninhabitable for the saner section of people. There are gradations of human beings in terms of proportionate faith in the Supreme Personality of Godhead. The first class faithful men are the Vaishnavas and the Brahmins, then the Kshatriyas, then the Vaishyas, then the Shudras, then the Malechas, the Yavanas, and at last the Chandalas. So what's a Malecha? Yes. A little louder, please. Yeah, that's true, but what does that mean? If he doesn't follow the Vedas, what does he follow? Yeah, but what is that way? I'm trying to get something concrete. So we all know what a Malecha is. What does he do? What does he eat? Now, he's a meat eater, yes. Prabhupada refers to him as a meat eater, a Malecha. Then there are Chandalas, which are really not much different than the Malechas. And what is a Chandala in particular, the way Prabhupada uses it often? A dog eater, yes, that's right. So, the degradation of the human instinct begins from the Malechas, and the Chandala state of life is the last word in human degradation. It doesn't get lower. All the above terms mentioned in the Vedic literatures are never meant for any particular community or birth. They are different qualifications of human beings in general. There is no question of birthright or community. One can acquire the respective qualifications by one's own efforts. Narada Muni has said that a person should not be judged by his heredity or the family he's born into. If he's in a Brahmin family born, it doesn't mean he's a Brahmin. If he's a Kshatriya, it doesn't mean he's a Brahmin. Excuse me, Kshatriya. Or Vaishya, or even Shudra. What determines one's state is his character, his qualities, his attributes, and his behavior. That's what determines it. So if a person is born in a Brahmin family, but he acts like a lower Chandala and goes to the meat store and eats a big steak or roast beef or whatever, he cannot be considered a Brahmin. Even though he may wear a thread, he may do these ceremonies and sacrifices that are done by Brahmins, but the behavior is not in sync with what the Vedas prescribe for a Brahmin. There is no question of birthright or community. One can acquire the respective qualifications by one's own efforts. So that means you can be born, and Prabhupada has made this point over and over. This is the very essence of the teachings of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. He catered to everyone and anyone who is sincere and serious and wanted to develop pure love of God. And that was the only qualification: the desire, sincere desire, dedication, application. So if one did that, he was welcome into Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's camp. But if one had the birthright of a Brahmin, but did the very opposite of what a Brahmin is supposed to do, or if one is a sannyasi and he does the very opposite of what a sannyasi is supposed to do, such as Junior Haridas, he spoke frivolously with some woman when he was going to get some rice to cook. So he was talking a little too familiarly. It doesn't mean that a man can't speak to a woman. It means how he is speaking, and is this subtle sex or is this just genuine interaction for the purpose that the person has come. And so every person, especially brahmacharis, have to be very careful about this. And Lord Chaitanya was so careful that he barred Junior Haridas from his group, and he said, "I don't want to see you anymore." And he would not relent, even though many of the devotees who knew Junior Haridas, he was a singer, and he was very fixed up. But he seemed to think he could do what he wanted to do in that particular situation. I'll talk freely, I'll talk familiarly, I'll talk fickly. After all, I know her. This is the very thing Lord Chaitanya was very, very against. And he wanted to set the perfect example by his own example. And this is not just something for a person in the 1500s. It pertains to today. And we all have to be very, very careful about this, because, not just because it's bad, that's not the idea. What it is a temptation which leads us into often illicit sexual connections. And those illicit sexual connections can cause many different problems and troubles, most of which we all know. And those illicit connections, what happens is it develops into attachments. Attachments for that particular action. And one may then begin to fall down, or after falling down, then he looks for other, or she looks for other men. Because it felt good, there was no real problems yet, and so the person thinks that it will be okay. So in our Vedic teachings, in our Srimad Bhagavatam, in our Bhagavad Gita, it is said very clearly that we should very carefully watch out for these things. Sometimes the devotee thinks that because he doesn't feel any strong, or she doesn't feel any strong sensual or sexual attraction, that he or she is free from that compulsion. Banish the thought. These thoughts operate subconsciously, and one day one finds, as a result of continuous association, connection, an intense, overwhelming desire to want to associate with that person. And one makes up all kinds of lies to himself to get into conversation with that person, and after that it just develops. Now, I'm not talking about something that develops from marriage. There's nothing wrong with that. We're talking about illicit connections now. And so therefore one has to be very careful about this. And Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he set the example. Unfortunately, many devotees who have the sannyas robe or order, or who are even spiritual masters, ignore this and take the position of one who is, look, I'm strong enough. I have that power. No woman or no man can beguile me or involve me in that kind of a thing. I know, I've tested myself. And then one day, boom, big bombshell. This is called false pride, a kind of pride that destroys a devotee's life. And that is why throughout our scriptures, and especially through Srila Prabhupada's admonitions, we have to be free of this kind of pride. Pride which says, I'm okay, I can take it, I can bear it, I don't have to really look out for that, I'm above that, I've advanced. And because I've advanced, well, what's the worry? I can speak freely, I can speak in a so-called inappropriate way, in a familiar fashion. Everyone I know, including yours truly, sorry, everyone I know has fallen who's taken that particular position. Savas, you know many, many devotees. Do you know anybody who didn't fall when he became very familiar with or she became very familiar with the opposite sex? Yeah, very dangerous. That's the point. But there's no red mark for that person who's very proud, because I've got the stuff that it takes to transcend the whole thing. Lots of words in there. Transcend, be divine, able to take it, able to withstand all these lies that one tells himself until finally unfortunate situations occur. Okay, I'll move ahead. So, one can acquire the respective qualifications by one's own efforts, and thus the son of a Vaishnav can become a Malecha, or the son of a Chandala can become more than a Brahman, all in terms of their association with intimate relation with the Supreme Lord. Repeat that. All in terms of their association and intimate relation with the Supreme Lord. So what is said here is, if one associates with the Supreme Lord, often, frequently, at first maybe indifferently, robotically, even thoughtlessly, but because he knows it's right, he knows it's good, he knows that Prabhupada has given it as an injunction, he goes on and on and on, and what happens is that what was indifferent at one point, or mechanical, or robotic, slowly begins to develop taste. And when one begins to feel taste, the chanting of the holy name, or the looking at the beautiful pictures of Krishna and Radha, or the tasting of prasadam, all this becomes better and better, greater and greater, until finally a person really does become strong, really does become indifferent to the thing, but he doesn't brag about it. He doesn't wear a sign on. He doesn't try to show off by deliberately or associating with the opposite sex. No, he's always very careful, and in being careful, he tries to set a good example so that others, younger especially, will follow that example. We have so many wonderful devotees who do it right, and they don't try to cheat, and they don't have this very proud position that nothing can affect me. The meat eaters are generally called, am I in the right place? Okay, thank you. The meat eaters are generally called malechas, but all meat eaters are not malechas. Those who accept meat in terms of scriptural injunctions, sorry, I'm a little bit entangled here. Skip page. Yeah. Those who accept meat in terms of scriptural injunctions are not malechas, but those who accept meat without restriction are called malechas. So that sounds a little contradictory, but those who are familiar with Srila Prabhupada's books, is there anyone here who would like to volunteer and explain what that means? Savas, would you like to? If you'd like to, I'm going to put you on. Explain that sentence that I did, or I don't want to, burden you with this kind of thing. What I said here, but all meat eaters are not malechas. Those who accept meat in terms of scriptural injunctions are not malechas, but those who accept meat without restriction are called malechas. Why? Right. It means they are, what they do is usually they take a goat, but they do not eat the cow. That is verboten, forbidden, not allowed. So they will eat a goat, and they will have a particular ceremony. And in that ceremony, if I recall it, I don't know the word for word, it is mentioned that in his next life he will be the goat that will be killed. So beware. Or they say the buyer beware. Beef is forbidden in the scriptures, and the bulls and cows are offered special protection by followers of the Vedas. But in this age of Kali, people will exploit the body of the bull and the cow as they like, and thus they will invite sufferings of various types. Not only to the cow, if any and has any doubt about this, all you have to do is go online and just type in sufferings of cows or anything of that sort, violation of the of cows, and you'll see scene after scene, program after program showing how the cow is ignored, disregarded, kicked, having things thrown at it if it doesn't move. Many terrible, horrible things. For that reason, many persons don't take milk, not because they're opposed to milk, but they're opposed to this brutality and they don't want to support it. Of course, if one has his own cow or one gets milk from the Escondido farm, that's a different matter, because milk is good, notwithstanding what the vegans say. It maintains good brain tissue. Of course, if you get my age and your arteries are getting pretty filthy with a lot of fat, one has to definitely go easy on those things, if not even avoid them, if you want to play it really safe. Because what happens is the fat inside of the milk, they call cholesterol, it gets into the sides of the arteries. And the artery, which may be this big, normally, naturally, gets small, like this, see? So what does that mean? It means the heart has to pump very, very hard to get the blood through that tiny auricle. And the result of that is that the heart becomes bigger and bigger, and various veins in the heart and arteries in the heart become strained, and the result of that strain is a person can have a heart failure or any one of different heart conditions. at which he may have to have what they call single, double, triple, quadruple bypasses in order to get through this. So, therefore, it's good to be precautious, but it's not good to be over-precautious. That's like saying it's good to be fanatical. We don't need to be fanatical, but on the other hand, we have to be considerate of these matters. So, beef is forbidden in the scriptures, and the bulls and cows are offered special protection by followers of the Vedas. But in this age of Kali, people will exploit the body of the bull and the cow as they like, and thus they will invite sufferings of various types, not only on the bull and the cow, but on themselves especially, as I just mentioned. The people of this age will not perform any sacrifice. The militia population will care very little for performances of sacrifices. Sacrifices means discipline. It means not something pleasurable. So when one does, for example, for an hour, putting water on the deity, putting urine on the deity, putting honey on the deity, all this takes time. And all one is doing is watching. He doesn't get to taste the honey that he pours on the deity. So people today want the easy way. They don't want to make effort. They don't want discipline. They don't want to keep their mind focused and fixed on something good which is going to benefit them. Better to go to a movie in which you can have some identification with some of the characters and feel that you're becoming rich or powerful or knowledgeable. People go to the movies and they often identify with the heroes and the heroines. And at the end, if the one they rooted for fails or loses, they feel like a loser. I know when I used to go to the movies, I watched cowboy and Indian movies, I would see certain of my heroes would get beaten. It was a twist. And I'd feel very, very down. I didn't walk out with my chest up and swinging my arms, like Will Rogers, or like, I just felt like a loser. And I didn't know if I should even see those movies anymore. But then I was told that the movie coming the next week, same actor, he's going to win. So I decided I would go, and I'd walk out, swinging my arms like this, my head up, my chest high, as if I could take on the world. So that's part of what going to the movies is all about. It's taking on a different identity, because your present identity is what our president calls a loser identity. And if you have a loser identity, then we are not fulfilling the very purpose for which we came into this material world, which is to be a lord. A lord means one who is high, big, powerful, a manager, a director, one who orders, not one who is pushed down, but one who is made small or insignificant. So therefore people do not like to feel very small and insignificant and worthless. And one of the ways of relieving that is reading a novel in which you identify with the main character, and then if the main character comes out winning at the end, then we win. Or same in the movie. So this is a very false type of existence. It's an existence based upon identifying with somebody else who, by the way, happens to be just as weak as the guy who's identifying. But he doesn't know that. He doesn't think about that. He only thinks, I need something. It's like if you're hungry for sugar or honey, so you take it and you feel good. So same thing, people feel a need for these things. But in the ultimate analysis, what it means is that a person is living a life of illusion, and a terrible life of illusion. And that life of illusion will cause that person to suffer in various ways, bodily, mental, intellectually, and in the soul itself being covered. I would take one more sentence. The people of this age will not, I just mentioned that. The Malecha population will care very little for performances of sacrifices, although performance of sacrifice is essential for persons who are materially engaged in sense enjoyment. Work done as a sacrifice for Vishnu must be performed. Otherwise, work causes bondage in this material world. Therefore, perform your prescribed duty for his satisfaction. And in that way, you'll be freed from the bondage of work. Krishna is talking to Arjuna. Whatever you do, whatever you eat, whatever you offer or give away, do this as an offering to me. In this way, you'll be freed from the bondage of work and its auspicious and inauspicious results. With your mind fixed on me in this principle of renunciation, you will be liberated and come to me. So, it's a good idea for all of us to get into the habit of whatever we're doing, whether we're cooking, whether we're washing pots or pans, or whether we're putting things away, to get into the habit of saying, this is for you, Lord. This is for you, Lord. This is for you, Lord. You say it over and over, and after a while it becomes a habit. And the habit is a good habit because Krishna sees that we are thinking of him, making a steadfast effort to know him, to please him, and therefore he will insert or inject his own self, his own personal love in us. He says, work done as a sacrifice for Vishnu. Excuse me, all right, I just said that. What I was saying, as they surrender unto me, I reward them accordingly. And what is that reward? The reward is the Lord. He gives more or less of himself according to how much we are expending ourselves. No expansion, you don't get devotion. You don't even know what devotion is. But as we expend little by little, make little efforts, we continue to grow and grow. So this is the point. I wanted to mention one other thing, and that is, as I mentioned at the outset, that the bull, Dharma, had only one leg. So he had one leg. I'll just wrap this up for a few moments. He had only one leg. What did it symbolize? It's more than just one leg. In the 4 yugas, which is Satya Yuga, Treta Yuga, Dwapara Yuga, and Kali Yuga, each one exists for a certain amount of time. So, Satya Yuga lasts for approximately 1,750,000 years, or 725,000. After Satya Yuga, we have what comes up after Satya? What is that? Treta Yuga. Yes, and Treta Yuga lasts 1,230,000 years. And then after that, we have Dwapara Yuga, which lasts 860,000 years? Or is it 40? 864,000. And then Kali Yuga, 432,000 years. So in each of these Yuga cycles, we have 4 qualities in Satya Yuga: truthfulness, austerity, mercy, and cleanliness, all 4. But as Satya Yuga slowly disappears, and I'm forgetting the second one. What is it? Treta Yuga. As that emerges, we find that one of the qualities which are called the support or the columns of Dharma has disappeared. Does anybody remember which of the 4, truthfulness, austerity, mercy, and cleanliness? Truthfulness, austerity, I'm almost certain it's austerity, is what disappears when we come into Treta Yuga. And all through Treta Yuga, one of the virtues will disappear. I believe that is cleanliness. And then as we go through the whole of Treta Yuga, we come to Dwapara Yuga, and that will disappear is mercy will disappear. And then when we come into Kali Yuga, we have truthfulness will disappear. So that's why, or that's what is happening here. We have Dharma standing on one leg, and that is all that is left in Kali Yuga. And gradually, as the years elapse, that one leg gets shorter and shorter until there is no legs. And when there is no legs, what we have is we have chaos, total chaos. No truthfulness, no austerity, no mercy, no cleanliness. What do you have? Just chaos. So there's one good sign in the whole picture. The one good sign comes from our beloved Lord Krishna. And you find this in the Bhavishra Purana and several other Puranas, that after 5,000 years of Kali Yuga, there will be a reign of 10,000 years of Satya Yuga again. Who does he say this to? I've read this. He's speaking to Ganga Devi. You can get this in Google. Just go 10,000 years, Satya Yuga, and you'll find it there. For years, I never was able to find it. But there are at least 3 Puranas in which it is mentioned, and Krishna makes it very clear. And guess what? We are the spearheaders of that 10,000 years of Satya Yuga. Srila Prabhupada came really. Lord Chaitanya started it, and Srila Prabhupada has continued it. And therefore we have a responsibility to help in the fulfillment of Lord Krishna's prediction or prophecy. And the more we exemplify, the more we show, the more we present from ourselves good qualities, qualities that don't arouse anger and hatred and jealousy and envy, but qualities which arouse compassion and kindness and sweetness and love and affection. When we do that, what happens is that people, even if they had a tendency to blurt out, to scream, to become angry, you transform them by your good quality. And that good quality which transforms them will then act to transform others in the course of persons becoming more and more devotional and divine. And as a result, the whole world for 10,000 years. Of course, there'll always be some bad eggs there, but pun on the word egg. But of course, as a result, we will have a preponderance of goodness, and devotees becoming pure devotees will help to leaven the bread, so to speak, or lift it up so that people can become what they are supposed to be and not the miserable wretches they are today. Thank you very much. All glories to Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Srimad Bhagavatam Ki Jai. Thank you. Thank you. Drag me out of the bed.